go chasing the dawn. Another stroll in the shadows, one more familiar street. It seems that history is bound to repeat. That's how my destiny's drawn. Just when the story is shifting, turns out it's too good to last. Maybe I just can't escape from the past as I go chasing the dawn. Why don't you just release me and go your separate way? My heart has nothing left to give away. Another drink for my troubles, another cold cigarette. I'm not the type, but I'll take a bet that flame will keep burning on as I go chasing the dawn, as I go chasing the dawn, as I go chasing the dawn. Another stroll in the shadows, one more familiar street. It seems that history is bound to repeat. That's how my destiny's drawn. Just when the story is shifting, turns out it's too good to last. Maybe I just can't escape from the past as I go chasing the dawn. Why don't you just release me and go your separate way? My heart has nothing left to give away. Another drink for my troubles, another cold cigarette. I'm not the type, but I'll take a bet that flame will keep burning on as I go chasing the dawn, as I go chasing the dawn, as I go chasing the dawn. Another stroll in the shadows, one more familiar street.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am back. We have Tom Luongo, and we are going to have some fun today because there is so much shit going on in the world. But before that, Tom, let everyone know where they can find your stuff. I guarantee they all know already, but let them know again. Sounds great to me. So I'm sure it's working for everybody. Okay. Now, question: why on earth are they arresting or investigating Jerome Powell? This makes no sense to me.
And reform the Federal Reserve. Bring the Federal Reserve, at least parts of its functions, back under the Treasury, reform it in such a way that we get to that day. Now, let's start with, why did Trump go after Powell last year? He needs to lower interest rates. Yeah, and I've gone over this in 1,000 times, but I'm going to go over it again just to make sure everybody's clear. If in order for Trump to cut the trade deals that he did last year, he needed Trump to keep interest rates as high as possible, because he was running a weak dollar policy, and he was draining the Eurodollar system, and he was putting the cost of dollars out into the world, keeping the cost of dollars that people needed, while Trump was forcing them to pay dollars that they didn't have in order to deal with their, to deal with the trade imbalances. So all of a sudden, weak dollar plus high interest rates in the United States meant massive amounts of trade deal leverage. Mm-hmm. Trump used it to his advantage. But here's the thing. In our orbit, the Fed sucks. Okay. We are on the bleeding edge of the world, right?
Okay.
We're in the top 3 to 5% of people who understand that the Federal Reserve is not a useful institution or a good institution or whatever, that there are problems with the Fed. Trump is an 80-20 kind of guy.
Sure.
The Fed is a 595 issue, mm-hmm. right? Meaning 5% of the population wants the Fed reformed. 95% either do not give a fuck or are against it. And of course, then we have the entire financial press, which is, the worst kind of fake news, is of course, wants to continue to have the United States under controlled by the Federal Reserve, in a post-Trump environment. So of course, they would never, ever, go on CNBC and say that the Fed is an illegitimate institution.
Sure.
So
they couldn't even if they wanted to at this point.
Right. So my point is that what Trump did last summer was, at the end of the day, if Jerome Powell was so unutterably horrified and guilty of anything, mm-hmm. last summer when Trump brought this up multiple times, Powell would have left. If Powell was a globalist, he would have resigned and handed the FOMC off to Miss Evil her fucking self, Lael Brainerd, who's the current vice chair of the Federal Reserve, who's literally Obama's MMT cunt.
Right. No, I know.
Okay. That. So now, with that in mind, what did Powell do? He went along with all of Trump's bullshit. And then he goes to Jackson Hole and he gets rid of the 2% inflation target, which is otherwise known as globalist monetary policy, and makes a point of saying we're going to focus on the dual mandate with a focus on labor, mm-hmm. on stimulating the labor market, which is exactly what Trump wants. And then he cuts interest rates steadily in order to save face for the Federal Reserve, right? But to say, look, I'm independent. He has to do this. This is part of the gig. This is part of the plan. This is part of the politics of the situation. Sure. Say that the Fed is not a political institution, but it absolutely is. It has to respond to politics. Trump's making it a political issue. But what he's done is he's tied the Fed to internal corruption, mm-hmm. right? Which is now the big story of the day. Minnesota, Quality Clearing Center, blah, 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 blah. Everybody's now we're refocused on what? Domestic plundering of the tax base and the U.S. taxpayer.
Sure.
Correct?
Okay.
So from that perspective, resurrecting this issue about the Fed and the remodel of the Fed building, all the Fed's buildings and the cost overruns and everything else, is just a perfect cover for Trump to then move the needle and move this from a 595 issue to a 50-50 issue, mm-hmm. or a 60-40 issue. He's also now putting lighting a fire under the Senate, who's already in serious trouble with him for not passing any of his agenda, for not giving him any of his appointees, and we're setting up for the big fight after the the State of the Union address and where we're coming, what's happening over the course of the next couple of weeks. Remember, Lisa Cook, the Fed governor that he wants to get rid of because he wants to put his person on the FOMC board.
Mm-hmm.
Her trial, she comes out of grand jury or whatever. That trial moves forward, I think, next week. So again, the timing on this makes perfect sense from a political perspective. And Powell being the head of the FOMC, he has to be the guy that takes the slings and arrows, because at the end of the day, you're in charge, you're the executive, this happened on your watch. And Trump is using that argument of whoever's in charge, the CEO, the head of the country or whatever, that's the guy we're all supposed to hate, right? Nicolas Maduro. There's a list of them: Maduro, Khamenei, Netanyahu, Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, Stalin, blah, blah, all of them. It's the same fucking British bullshit that we hear all the time. That person gets personified as the representative of the entire organization, country, or whatever that you're now supposed to hate.
Right.
You're supposed to go. So they're the Emmanuel Goldstein of the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Trump's flipping that and using that to his advantage by turning Powell into the bad guy when he's not really the bad guy, in order to move the needle politically, to do what he absolutely has to do and needs to do, and what Powell agrees with doing, and what Scott Bessent wants done, which is to reform the Fed and get it out of banking regulation and getting it out of all of the shit that it doesn't need to be in post Banking Act of 1935. This is going to be a big fight in the second half of Trump's term, is how to reform the Federal Reserve and bring parts of its functions back under the U.S. Treasury.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you keep resurrecting the story to make it a big deal, to move the needle and move people into areas and move people into support that this is now a popular issue. But you have to, this is a hard one. This is a big one. Most people don't give a fuck about the Federal Reserve.
No,
most
people
literally
don't care at all.
No, they don't even know what the fuck it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to layer this in. And so while all of us who are really plugged into this stuff are like, oh my God, this is a big deal. Like, no, actually, it's not. It's about moving the big needle at the macro political level in order to set an agenda for the second half of the term. He's going to tie the Fed, and he already has tied the Fed to the reason why your mortgage is so goddamn expensive, and why this and why your life sucks.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing it. And okay. And Powell's doesn't matter. Powell's gone in 4 months.
Right.
So, and Powell is the perfect guy to take the slings and arrows. Because remember, also, Lael Brainard's term is up at the same time Powell's is. So she's not going to be on the FOMC past May. She's gone. Lisa Cook will be gone. There's like, there will be a nice solid turnover at the Fed, at the FOMC, in the same way that there was a nice turnover on the SCOTUS during Trump's first term.
Now, you see, that's kind of where I was thinking. So I'm trying to make sense of this myself, right? And sure. I everything you've said is dead on. I'm like, I don't disagree with any of it.
Right.
But, and listen, I might be there you go again.
Oh my God. Jesus, Google, my God. What the fuck is wrong with you?
I don't know.
That's just so fucking stupid. Hold on for a second. Let me see what I can come up with. Open picture, full screen, just view, background effects. How about adjust view? How about not auto? How about, no, that's never mind. That's not that. Oh my God, that's just terrible. That's adjusting my view. Jesus Christ. Troubleshooting and help, report abuse. How about video? How about send resolution is that? How about receive it? And that's all I get, right? And Jesus Christ, people suck complete ass. That's just awful. Yeah, and now you know why I hate fucking Google.
I have to say I'm not the biggest fan these days anyway. But here's where I'm at with it. Okay, this is kind of what I think of all of it. Okay,
right.
Trump has, and I was just talking about this with EM and Tom this morning, right? Mm-hmm. Trump has one shot at this. Okay, he's got 3 years left, and he has a lot to do, and they're going to try to sabotage him at every step of the way.
Yes.
Trump needs, and when I say needs, I mean needs, to impress on the Republicans that they have got to get rid of the filibuster and pass everything they've ever dreamed of now.
Agreed.
Okay? And
Yeah.
he hasn't done it yet. He's mentioned it. And there's been some of his surrogates that have mentioned it. But without a Federal Reserve chair, without all of this, with all of these nominees that have just been backed up and backed up, Trump is going to need the authority to get these people moving without coming into the Schumer train wreck that is the filibuster. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not even promising that it's gonna happen. I'm just saying that I think that right now a bold move is needed, and I think that the fact that it was Anna Luna,
Luna.
yeah, who's basically the one like calling this out. I think it's a rope-a-dope. Okay, I think that she's putting a lot of people out there as being criminals, so it looks like she's kind of going after like people that are, let's just say, unknown or unpopular, so that she can really start doing this with people that do matter. Okay, but I think this is all going to fall on crushing the filibuster. I think Trump's cleaning up his foreign affairs right now. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I think Trump made a lot of campaign promises, and I don't think he gives a flying shit what the podcaster right has to say. I know JD Vance does, and I know that there are people that are pretending there's this MAGA war and all that. It's bullshit. It's all bullshit.
It's all horseshit.
Right.
Every bit of it.
But I think that Trump made a campaign promise that Iran was not going to get a nuclear weapon. I think that Trump kind of made a campaign promise that he was going... There you go. That he was going to get Greenland. I think that he made a campaign promise that he was going to take on the cartels.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I think he's doing it. And I think this goes in line with what we keep saying about stuff like assumable mortgages and the way that they've been bringing the dollar up against the euro and basically taking the Europeans' business front, left, and center. Right? Mm-hmm. I think that Trump is putting these wins to bed because he sees the long-term benefit of it. What is one of our biggest problems right now? Well, two of them: military recruitment, student loans. These are two huge issues right now. Two birds, one stone. Do you think less people wanted to join the military after Maduro or more?
More, clearly.
Exactly. People, as much as the podcaster right was losing their minds, and the Democrats who just can't seem to find a communist drug dealer or thief that they don't get behind, right? Mm-hmm. The people that matter, the people that vote, the people that get out there and pound on doors, the people that, for lack of a better term, will make America great again, right? Mm-hmm. They're the ones he's appealing to right now, and it's working.
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
Do you remember? I mean, like, I remember a day when everybody who couldn't afford college went into the military and did the GI Bill. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, you applied for small loans from the government, but there was none of this $200,000 in student loan debt for a lesbian underwater basket weaving degree.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? It was your money because it was your GI Bill. You didn't go to college for something stupid when it was your money.
Right.
You know? And if he it's two birds, one stone. More people join the military, less people take student loans. More people go to college that should be going to college, as opposed to everyone who can fill out a form and just assume the government's going to come bail them out one day when they sign, a 30-year student loan debt that they're never, ever, 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 ever going to repay. Right. And I think a lot of this is contingent on the Republicans doing what they've got to do and breaking the filibuster. Because the Democrats will do it. There's no doubt. So pretending that we don't want to do it because then they'll do it to us is retarded, and no one buys it.
No one buys it. They just realize that it's the uniparty, and that's the end of it. And every day that Thune plays this game the way he's playing it, and every bit of this, every fucking bit of it is just ensuring that these people are all going to get lynched. That's why they're putting out all this stuff about the smurfing numbers and how much money these people are stealing and everything else. I mean, I'll tell you how effective has it been. He's got Lindsey Graham out there saying, "Hey, I think it's time we stop giving aid to Israel."
Yeah. Well,
did anybody not notice that?
Well, who else is saying that, by the way?
Who?
I bet you're going to be surprised at this. Bibi Netanyahu.
Yeah.
He's saying the exact same thing.
No,
He's
I know.
been.
He said the exact same. Yeah, he said the exact same thing. No, I know. Because it goes, and it's funny. It goes right back to stuff that you and I have been talking about for over a year, and you've eaten a lot of shit over this, by the way, with my audience, and I mean, just you've eaten a lot of shit on this, which is that look, it's time for Israel to become a real country.
Yep.
And we're in this retarded space where you can't be somebody said this to me about you the other night. We were chatting about when the news broke about Lindsey Graham saying that. I was chatting about it privately with a couple of friends, and he's the one really astute young man said, look, I brought you up, and he said, yeah, I mean, what's the problem? Halsey's both an Israeli patriot and an anti-Zionist. These two things are not mutually exclusive.
I wouldn't say I'm an anti-Zionist, but
I know you. I know that, dude. I'm not arguing that. What I'm telling you is that I'm saying he's agreeing. He's saying, look, it's a perfectly valid perspective, but we're not allowed to have that perspective. That those two things are not mutually exclusive. You can be an Israeli patriot and an anti-Zionist at the same time. Or in my case, you can be an anti-Zionist and give two shits about fucking Israel.
Or you can accept that there are plenty of things that if one side benefits, it doesn't mean the other side loses. Right? Exactly. It's that there are plenty of countries that we have a mutual agreement with that benefits both. And like people will say, oh, well, Trump's only doing this because it benefits Israel. Well, no, he's doing it because it benefits America. The fact that it benefits Israel also is irrelevant. You know what I'm saying?
When you see people do the if not A, then B thing, when you see them go, if it's benefiting the United States, it can't not possibly benefit, it can't possibly benefit Israel, or they create that false dichotomy.
Right.
That's British fucking tabloid media rhetoric in order to divide you. That is classic narcissistic divide and rule strategy, 100%. And that's why I can't fucking stand Nick Fuentes. That's why I can't stand Candace fucking Owens, or even I'm at the point now where I'm seriously wondering about Tucker Carlson and all of these fucking people. Everybody's doing it. Everybody's crashing out. I see it in the anti-U.S. imperialist camp, who have now all outed themselves as being anti-U.S. imperialist, but they're okay with China imperialism or Russian imperialism or this, that, and anything else. You have the pro-Russian media part of this thing that still believes that the United States is the evil empire and that they're the good guys. You have the pro-Iranian media that's out there as well. And half of these people are all the same at this point because they've been subsumed into this fucking mind virus of if not A, then B.
Yep.
Which is all bullshit.
You also have
guess who's doing it the worst? I was just chatting with Joaquin Flores for my podcast, and he's like, "What, is everybody becoming an anarcho-communist overnight because he's the lefty?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And is everybody becoming an anarcho-capitalist, purity spiraling douchebag overnight? Yeah. You don't want to know why? Because they want you to be that. They want you crashing out on either end because that is the way you thieve Trump's political mandate to actually fix things within the context of the institutions that we have, which will get us out of this with the minimum of bloodshed and violence.
Yep. 100%. And
what's wrong with you?
It's further than that. It's that, and again, I just keep referring to them as the podcast right, because they're not on the right at all. To even joke that these people are on the right. Like Tucker Carlson has people on his show that praise communism. He praised Maduro, saying Maduro was a true conservative. Like, the guy is literally a communist. It's not even like he's like sort of communistic, right? Like, the reason that they're doing this, and you're going to see it more and more and more, is their grudge against the right. They believed that they would be making the transition, and Tucker Carlson is the greatest example. They thought they would be making the transition from media personality to political power. Okay? Candace Owens thinks like that. Tucker Carlson thinks like that. All of these guys think that their popularity online would translate to real life power. Okay? And anyone can just take the example of Sargon of Akkad and show what that is. Sargon, do you remember him? Big time YouTuber. Yeah. He's a good guy too. He's a friend of mine. Right? Yeah, but he at the time he had, I want to say 2 million followers on YouTube or something like that. And he decided to run for parliament in Britain. and he got like 4 votes. And he realized that online numbers don't add up to real world support because it's spread out throughout the globe, right? Like he probably had like 10 fans in his home voting district, but he has millions around the world, but that doesn't translate. And now they're scorned. And the people that take advantage of this shit are the people. I did a massive report on this. It's been going back to 2000 that they've been doing this. The Democrats love to put actors out there. People they pay to be the Nazis and the bad guys and the guys they can point to and go, see, that's the people we were warning you about that Trump really is, that the right really is. And they're out in force right now. You've got this retard running in Florida, Fishback or whatever the fuck his name is. Right? You've got the guy, the YouTuber who's challenging Vivek, even though I can't stand Vivek. Right? Like, all of these people are coming out of the woodwork, pretending to be taking advantage of the populism that's coming off the internet. It just is not real. You know, and what it's doing.
I hadn't thought about that in regards to James Fishback, because Byron Donalds is a mouth breathing moron, and we don't want him as governor either. So, you know, I watched a short interview with Fishback, and I thought, or an ad or whatever, and I thought, oh, okay, maybe that's the guy. And I haven't had a chance to chat with Dexter White about, you know, but it looks almost foregone conclusion that we're going to wind up with Byron fucking Donalds as the governor in Florida after DeSantis, and that's a bad thing, by the way.
But I'm saying, if it's possible, Fishback is a more retarded Nick Fuentes. Like, yeah, I know that's a rough one, but I'm saying that's what he is.
Wow. Hold on, I'm glad I'm fucking sitting down for that one.
Like, he's beyond retarded. He is like the definition of the podcast right, just without a brain. Like, like he thinks that he's going to ride. He literally said, as part of his platform, okay, he was going to divest $325 million from Israel bonds and put it into a fund that first-time homeowners can use as a down payment. Now, that $325 million is not general fund money. This is pensioner money that's invested to yield a return for pensioners. Okay? He's going to take it and give it away.
You can't do that.
No, not only can you not do that, why would you take away a 5% return for pensioners, which keeps the system alive, and give it away?
5% return for pensioners in a world where Donald Trump wants to send the interest rates to 1%.
Right.
2%.
So, just the idea that he would think this, okay? And remember, this is a guy who wrote a letter when Trump was elected to him to say he wanted to replace Jerome Powell. Okay? Now, he's never had any kind of serious finance job in his life, but he did send that letter. He's just a populist retard. And he thinks that he's going to take that dislike of Byron Donalds, just like the other guy thinks he's going to take that dislike of Vivek Ramaswamy or whatever his name is, and ride it to a victory. He won't. They'll barely make a dent. What they'll probably do is just damage them for the general, right? Which, again, which then
you know is what the goal is, which is that they can siphon off 3 to 5%, and then, you know, in a general election, then they might be able to squeak a Democrat in.
Right, because remember, these guys benefit from the Democrats being in power. They get to do what the Republicans love doing the most, which is raise money and bitch. So the podcast would love a Democrat right now because they can just bitch all that much more.
Yeah.
You know,
it's a great way to bitch and then fundraise. And all of this is like, and you know, it's so clearly obvious at this point that everything is just a fundraising grift.
Mm-hmm.
Palestine, anti-Israel, all of it. It's all just a fundraising grift. Yep. It's all it ever is. It's all it ever was. But the real stuff is what's happening on the ground in places like Minnesota, and that's real.
Mm-hmm.
It's astroturf, but it's real astroturf, meaning these are paid protesters. They're on the ground. They're actually attacking ICE agents. They're actually, busting windows, all the rest of it. And yeah, they're all getting paid $20-$25 an hour. But who gives a shit? At the end of the day, they're mercenaries. And the mercenaries are real.
The question is why? And the question is because they want to distract from the fact that Somalians raided $19 billion from our tax revenue and sent it over to fucking Minnesota, and that Keith Ellison and Tim Walz were involved. They want to distract from the fact that Gavin Newsom ripped off something like $30 billion from the federal government blatantly and wants to cover it up. They want to cover up what happened in New York. What's happening in Texas is fucking positively criminal. Okay,
Right.
like, and it's worse than anything. They're going to find the Texas is probably the worst state in the union with the fraud. Right?
Well, and of course, because they were so desperately trying to turn Texas blue. You keep talking. I'm going to get a cup of coffee.
No problem. But the worst part about it for me is, and I use this anecdotally, but at the same time, it matters. Okay, I had an uncle. He was the undersecretary, one of the undersecretaries of the Treasury. Okay, and he recently died. Actually, he retired a long time ago. But he had Parkinson's for like a really long time. So like it was his time. He was in his 70s. But so I remember he came over to visit and we were talking. I don't remember which hurricane it was. It might have been Katrina, but it was one of the bad ones, either in Florida or in Louisiana. And he was talking about how he's just been up all night because they're putting together the aid packages to help out these hurricane victims, right? And he said the worst part about it is that they had to allocate $19 billion because they just bake into the cake that $8 billion of it is going to go to fraud. So in order to get the $11 billion to the people who needed it, they had to allocate 19. Otherwise, there would basically be no money for the people who needed it.
Yeah, and people kept trying to tell me that we can't clean up the $1 trillion out of our budget with numbers like that, with fraud numbers like that, right?
Oh,
you think of it that way. I mean, honestly, dude, I'm sitting here listening to these people talking because I've been saying this for fucking 4 years. Like, this is not hard. Like, hey, well, you're running a $1.7 trillion deficit. Yeah, and how much of that is fraud?
Exactly.
How much of that is waste? You're supposedly libertarians. You're supposedly, these people who believe that government can't do anything right and it's all fraud. Well, okay, well, well, they'll never do it. Well, why wouldn't they ever do it?
Mm-hmm.
And this is the same bullshit arguments I used to hear out of fucking third grade libertarians when I first went to the goddamn meetings when I was working at the University of Florida, literally paid by the state of Florida, gotten my checks, and they're like, they all start their standard bitch about how government employees will never vote against their jobs going away. And I'm like, really? I stood up in the middle of the state party convention, 250 people in the fucking room, and I went, excuse me, I like the floor. I work at the University of Florida, and so does my wife. She's standing right next to me. She works for the city of Alachua. Oh, by the way, no one sees corruption like a fucking government employee. We'd all vote to get rid of our fucking jobs tomorrow because we know how fucking shit-ass useless they all are. You people live in a model in your heads.
Well,
you don't actually live in the real fucking world. And stop sniffing your own farts that because you're a small business owner, you're more morally superior, Ayn Rand, than anybody else. We're all just trying to make a fucking living in this life.
It's also, and I got into this with someone the other day. It was kind of like, I know you'll follow me on this. I got into this with someone the other day about libertarianism, right? Mm-hmm. And I said they're willing to see principles that they'll apply to the bigger picture, but they'll miss the forest for the trees, right?
Always.
And
always.
What is the heart of libertarianism? Local control, right? Mm-hmm. That is the heart of libertarianism. Yes. Is that the bigger the government, the worse everything is for everybody. But they'll get on board with, we should import as many people as humanly possible because that's a free market. No, that is a bigger government. The more people we import, the more the government gives money, the more welfare expands, the more local control disappears. And now you're seeing the results of that. So they won't use, if they have brains in the first place, they won't use them in order to check the libertarian logic of saying, no, the whole point is local control. It's not just to stick with the principles of quote-unquote libertarianism by saying, oh, in theory, open borders should be a good thing. But in practice, it hasn't been. In fact, it's done nothing but expand the size and scope of the government. So in doing so, you should be opposed to it on principle, but there never are.
Well, the open borders question is, I mean, I hate to go off on a fucking libertarian history lesson or anything, but that's always been the wedge issue between left, quote unquote, left libertarians of the California persuasion and right libertarians of the old South, basically the old South. Eventually Rothbard came down St. Murray himself came down to like, look, you can't have open borders until you get rid of the welfare warfare state. Now,
Right.
that's a nice way of saying it. What it really comes down to is that that's a practical political way of saying it. How about we just say it this way? Open borders is a consequence of implementing these ideas in the real world, where people act honorably and we build the high trust society that libertarianism implies, and therefore we do not need to have arbitrary political borders. No. We don't go there first and say, oh no, we'll get there because we have open borders. No. That's the exact opposite. It's a consequence, not a policy. And it's the same thing with getting rid of the Federal Reserve. It's the same thing with getting rid of standing armies. It's the same way with getting rid of all of this stuff. They are consequences of rebuilding civilization itself. Your argument is that government is an anti-civilizational impulse or institution. And for the most part, I still agree with that concept.
I do too.
But I don't live in a world where everybody agrees with that idea, and we don't agree or don't have the trust or the validation or anything else. We have a whole bunch of fucking psychopaths running around doing a whole bunch of horrible shit. And oh, by the way, you're sitting over here arguing theoretics when in the real world, Canada is our fucking enemy. And you're too goddamn fucking stupid to see it. You want this bullshit? Like when we poke, and the perfect example of all of these things is that I was just talking to Joaquin Flores about this again. This is another one of these themes. When Trump goes out there and says we need to have the Gulf of America, we need to have the Panama Canal, we need Greenland, Canada should be the 51st state. What is he saying? What he's doing is he's doing the very Trumpian thing of going, oh, by the way, there are problems here. You don't know what those problems are because you've been told to say that these things are that they're just the status quo and that's the way the world's supposed to work in the post-World War II institutional order. Bullshit. These things are all threats to the United States along different vectors.
Yep.
And you know that they are these things because the minute he brought them up as problems, everybody across the podcast right or across the Financial Times and Bloomberg set started bitching, or the Hill started bitching, the New York Times started putting out this shit, we started seeing shit out of the WAPO, all of the intelligence services, all of the entrenched powers started bitching and moaning about all of these things. Like he's crazy. What is he talking about? That's always been the Gulf of Mexico, blah, blah, blah. All of this. You know that something is important when you poke it and you question its validity in the moment, and everybody lights their fucking hair on fire about it.
Yep. And I have a great example, by the way, of the syllogisms that you're talking about. The A plus B must mean C is true. So I tell people this story all the time, that we know that local charities are always going to be destroyed by federal involvement. And it's happened over and over and over again. Every time a food bank's open, they do great work until they get federal money, and then all of a sudden they suck. They don't get food to the people who need it. They only care about fulfilling government mandates, and everything goes to complete shit, and they get washed away in fraud and abuse and political bullshit, and it's a nightmare, right? So I told everybody, I said, well, look, there's nothing wrong with any of you doing what the Orthodox community did in Lakewood, New Jersey. There was a kid, right? Parents very wealthy. Parents bought a refrigerated warehouse because they had a client. The client, when it came time to move in, went out of business. So they had this, listen, they were very wealthy. It wasn't like they were going bankrupt from this. But the kid said to his father that he wanted to use the refrigerated warehouse because what he wanted to do was, one of the most expensive parts about being an Orthodox Jew is kosher food, right?
Right.
So he said he wanted to open up a food bank. Now, it's not for poor people, per se, okay? What it is for families that are large. In order to qualify for this food bank, you have to have a minimum of 5 kids, okay? He didn't care how much you made. He just cared that you had 5 kids or more, okay? And what he did was he got on the phone and he called every kosher food distributor in the country and said, whatever you don't sell by the end of the month that you would normally just throw in the trash, send it to me. I'll give you the full value of a tax write-off. Right? And he did this. He now supplies something like, I want to say 7,000 families every month. And when I say he gives away food, I've been going there for years. He gives away $2,000-3,000 worth of food a month to each family. Okay, and they've offered him government money. He refuses to take it. He says, "I'm doing such good work. Why on earth would I want to involve people that are just going to wreck this for everyone?" And you know what? When I tell that story, 99% of the time, you know what I hear? Oh, so the Jews just like to give free shit to each other, but not to anyone else, huh? And I'm like, is there a way you could miss the point of that story any better? Like, you can't be more of a fucking idiot than to come up with that being the answer to what I just said. I just told you the blueprint of what you should do for your own communities. And literally your argument is that you can't sponge off the people who are doing it for their communities. Like, what on earth is wrong with you people? Like,
well, you've lost your humanity. It's a great story, and yeah, and the reaction to that is really fucking sad.
mm-hmm.
Like, no, kosher food is important to this community of people. That food needs to be, if he can aggregate all that food and then distribute it to those families that are in need and are trying, he has every goddamn right to determine his terms of engagement with other people as association. Freedom of association is freedom from association.
Mm-hmm.
That's what and more power to him, because, oh, by the way, fewer Jewish families, large Jewish families that are hungry meet and can continue to stay on program is less demand on the food supply for the rest of the world.
Yep. And there was a second one for this too.
Are you fucking missing the point, you dumb asshole?
There was a second one for this, right? There was a number that came out where Homeland Security was advertising that there's security grants available for religious institutions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they said something along the lines, I don't remember the exact wording, but it was something like 83% of the money goes to protect Jewish institutions throughout the country. Right? And everybody lost their minds, like, why is this money all going to Jews? And I know plenty of people at Homeland Security because of the work I do. I do security planning for religious institutions. So I called a couple of them. I said, something's not right about this. How come all of this money goes to Jewish institutions and no one else? And the guy goes, oh, that's a simple one to answer. They're the only ones that apply for it. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, in order to get the money, you have to put up 50% of the money yourself. They'll pay for security guards. They'll pay to harden your facility. They'll pay for surveillance systems and all that. You only got to basically pay half. And I was like, well, how come no one else applies for it? And he just basically was like, I don't know. He's like, just they don't. And so I decided to make it my mission, right? I got a whole bunch of people together. We went to every Catholic school, every Catholic church. We even went to some mosques, even though I can't stand Islam. And we told them about these grants. Every single one of them applied for it as soon as they knew it was available. It just never occurred to them before to apply because they're not under constant threat. You know what I'm saying? So it never occurred to them. They just figured these grants were really hard to get and were so cumbersome that it was something that they wouldn't want to do. And what they were really afraid was like with the hospitals. The hospitals were all Catholic hospitals, and then all of a sudden abortion mandates came down and they all had to go out of business. They were afraid that this money came with so many strings attached, it was going to hurt their religious nature.
Yeah.
So I literally made it my mission to go out and tell all these people. And now the number in New Jersey is something like 49% goes to Jewish institutions. We have everybody who will listen applying for this money, because I don't want to see Catholics get gunned down at church any more than I want to see Jews gunned down at synagogues. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we can't have the cops patrolling all these places because they don't know when the threats are coming down. They don't know if it's some angry tranny who wants to go shoot up the Catholic school, or if it's a Muslim extremist that wants to shoot up the Jewish school. You can't just increase patrols when you come to a threat, because usually you don't know about the threat until after the bullets start flying, right? And we're sitting there and we're going at it. And like, people are coming at me and they're like, oh, you see, the Jews, they do this. I'm like, it has nothing to do. It has to do with, if you're not willing to get out there and help people and stop it with your stupid shit where you sit around and complain all the time, then you don't have anything to say to me anymore. I don't want to have an argument with you. I don't want to have a discussion with you. If you
Yes.
feel that that there's not enough Catholic institutions getting the money, go tell the Catholic institutions. See if they want it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But stop bitching that Jewish institutions apply for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's available to everyone.
Yeah.
And it's simple to get. It's not even hard to get. You know what I'm saying? Like, they
Yes,
understand that
yes.
this applies to schools that are private and doesn't require more police, more government intrusion. It is a strict grant to provide private security to the places that need it the most. Mostly in the states that won't allow the teachers to be armed or allow civilians to carry arms on the property because it's against the law in most blue states, right? Because they kept the whole gun-free school zones thing. So as we keep going, we're sitting here and we're gnashing our teeth against the wall where we say to people, like, you do understand there's jobs out there, right? Like, I know everyone's bitching about the H-1Bs and all the immigrants and everybody taking all the jobs, but there are a lot out there. You just got to be willing to want to go out there and work, right?
Yep.
Like, I know people that have become plumbers assistants and make as much as doctors these days. I know people that are willing to go out and lay brick, and it sucked for the first year, and they're doing awesome, right? It's just to the point where it's like, if you want to sit and bitch, then sit and bitch. If you want to wonder why the government isn't doing more for you, it's not doing anything for anybody. And if you want more government for you, I encourage you to look at two communities, the Black community and the Native American community. Because for all of you people who say the Black community is such a train wreck because they're all so low IQ, Native Americans score right around the same as white people on IQ tests. They have the same amount of intelligence, and they are a fucking train wreck. If you look at their communities, they have the highest rates of alcoholism, highest rates of drugs, highest rates of human trafficking, highest rates of poverty, and it's because they're 100% dependent on the government for everything from the time they wake up until the time they go to sleep. And it's not just a low IQ thing. Okay? So if you want that for yourself, then just accept what you're going to get. Accept that they're going to pick winners and losers. You're probably going to be one of the losers because almost everybody is. You know what I'm saying? And just accept your fate. Or go get a job. When I was 18, I couldn't wait to find a job so I can get the fuck out of my parents' house. Who the fuck wanted to bring girls back to your parents' house?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yep. Oh no, I know. It's it's funny, like, watching this process, and you know, I was just chatting with a friend of mine the other day, had him come over to he's going to do some electrical work for me. He's an electrician. He's over here in Tennessee, and came over to scope the job that I have for him. And it's that time of the year where electricians in Tennessee don't have a lot of work right now because it's the winter. So I'm like, cool, great, excellent. We can do some work together. We went out and had lunch, and doing a little catching up, and regales me with the story of how hard it is for him to get a goddamn apprentice. The kid was supposed to show up on a Saturday and do the work, and he was on no show, no call. 18 years old, needs a job. Electrician's apprentice, dude. Like, good work, right? And then he calls him a week later, says, "Dude, you got any work for me?" He's like, "No, I don't have any work for you. I finished the job on my own. You ghosted me, and we're done." Oh, yeah, it does. You don't get to work on your time. You have to, you may see people like, this is the weird part about this whole like influencer YouTube culture thing. I mean, and we're part of it. So, hey, let's talk about it, which is that, it's hard work, right? It looks like we just sit around all day and chat, bloviate into a fucking microphone and do the thing. And when you get to a certain level of having worked and done the work and done the research and this is the culmination of 35 years worth of work. And then we get to sit here and do, and do what we do. Getting to the point where people are actually willing to listen to anything you have to say, that takes a certain amount of showing up every fucking day.
Yeah.
For a long time when no one is listening.
For sure.
And you and I go back a long fucking way on this, when there was nobody listening to us and we were doing this thing then, trying to build it out. And where we both been, and this is why I ultimately, you call, I'll be on the show. It's fine. Find the time to get it done. But that doesn't mean that this is easy. But I'm also 58 years old. I don't want to go out and dig ditches anymore.
I still blacksmith.
I gotta. What's that?
I still blacksmith. I'm almost 50.
Well, my point is that I'm okay with, I could, if I have to, I'll go out and do it. But I don't have to. But I worked very hard to get to the point where I don't have to. You can't walk out the chute at 18 and expect to get to this point.
But there's a difference, because you're leaving one part out. You might not want to dig the ditch, but at 58 years old, you still want to build your house, right? You embarked on this new adventure, moving to a new area and building a house and building a life in a new place. You know what I'm saying? Like from scratch. And that's the same thing.
It's the same thing. I'm not actually wielding the post hole digger. I'm not actually, I don't have the screw gun and get to be the honorary Amishman today. And I'm not doing it that way, but I am doing it in other ways. And, like everything else. So that's also, yeah. So, I mean, that is a fair point, but I'm talking about, like the idea that at 18 or 19 years old, you have anything to say that the world actually wants to fucking hear. I got news for you. Only the very exceptional 18-year-olds in this life do. And look, go out and have life kick you in the ass a little bit. Go out and do a fucking crappy job every day. I'll tell you, and I have my anecdotal evidence of my daughter after she graduated high school last June, now almost a year and a half ago, was having a problem learning she didn't know how to get a job. She didn't know how to apply for jobs. She didn't know how to do anything. Right. And so now she's like starting the process, and, 6 months worth of can't find a job, couldn't do this, way too honest on her friggin' job applications. Like not understand. Have you ever considered like stealing from a store? The answer is no. It's not. You're not here to like unload on your therapist that you thought about shoplifting once when you were 12. That's not what this is for. This is a legal document. She ran into this. She couldn't get a job as a bagger at the local Winn-Dixie for exactly that reason, because she failed the fucking psych profile test because she was too damned honest. Okay, this is my daughter, because she's. Okay, but eventually she got a job, and I'll tell you, she never felt worse about herself, right? And then the minute she got the job, and it's not a great job, and she's got to travel every day. She's got to drive on I-75, which she fucking hates, and she's got to do all this shit. And I'm watching her show up every day. She gets to work ultra early in the morning, so she works like 5:30 to 2:30, so she doesn't have to actually deal with fucking traffic and this and that, and she's home in the afternoon and blah 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 blah, and then she's got time to do overtime if necessary, and which she does when they offer to her, and she gets to look at her paycheck at the end and she's just like turning into she's turning into an adult before your eyes, and you watch it happen, and everything has changed. And but at the same time, I've been telling her this is a crappy job. Relatively speaking, it's a crappy job. You're getting a whole lot of skills that you're building it. That's fine, and you're making yourself more valuable to another employer. But you're just showing up every day.
Yep.
Every fucking day, and being reliable, and this and that and everything else, and then being able to translate that routine into one, good work every day, and then two, a track record. Means that you're going to be able to go on to a different or better job if you want one. And, if you have ideas that you want to be a different person later on, you can come home from work, you have a job that you can completely dissociate yourself, your emotional state from the job that you're doing. So when you get home in the afternoon, you can go, cool, I'm done. I don't have to worry about work at all, because I have this simple job. I get home in the afternoon, and the rest of my life is mine. And now you can build. Now you can work. Take that area of your day, and you can start applying effectively the Malcolm Gladwell, 10,000 hours towards the thing you want to do.
You know what else you can do? You can socialize with people. It's the weirdest thing these days. Everyone wants a job sitting on their ass behind a computer, but there's a real value to getting out there and living life. And getting out there and dealing with people on a daily basis. There's value to that. And as you get older and your experience grows, you get to the point where the people you interact with are how you start getting your next jobs, You know what I'm saying? And how you start meeting the people that maybe you want to ask out on a date or anything like that. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're online where you've never been punched in the face, like you're always going to think you could just say and do whatever you want, and you're going to wonder why nobody wants to be around you eventually. You know, like it's just basic, common sense. And it's funny because I was just talking, like, normally I always say that EM's a little black pilled when we start getting into things, but like this morning we were talking about all this and we just kept saying over and over and over again, there was no black pill whatsoever. We just kept saying, like, you've been trained, not you Tom, but you people,
The royal you.
yeah, have been trained to look at things from a sense of GDP or a sense of the stock market or a sense of the crypto market or how many followers do you have online or how smart do people think you are or anything like that. But you're missing the tribal aspect of just knowing who your neighbors are or understanding what you can do in this country. Like, there are so many places where there are a million jobs available that are out in a place you'd never think you'd want to live, and if you tried, you'd love it. Clean air, nice people, people looking to get married and have kids as opposed to going out in cities and spending $4,000 on a studio apartment. Like, all of these things exist. They didn't go away in the 50s. Just you're not willing to go out and look for it. And right now we're at a point where the information's all there. You can ask AI, like, what's a good community for me to live in based on my social media posting. You know what I'm saying? And it'll say, oh, you might enjoy this place, or you might enjoy that place, or you're posting about looking for work it might be benefit you to do this, or go here, or do that. Like,
do that.
The resources are endless as to what you can do. And I keep saying this over and over and over again, that me and you are the only ones that talk about it constantly. Trump and even some of the useless Republicans in government are literally setting the table for you. Yes. Like, they've brought up the issues that you think nobody gives a shit about. They've brought up the plans that you think everyone's ignoring you about. And if you get off your ass and look a little bit, like, there's so much available to you that you just have no idea. Like, all of the people that constantly tell me, what, I'm 30 years old and I can't afford a house. I'm like, have you looked into assuming an FHA loan? And they're like, what does that mean? And I tell them and they're like, oh my God. And then I don't hear from them from like 2 weeks. They're like, I've been doing nothing but looking at houses. Like, it's there. They're setting it up for you.
This is one of those conversations that I was having, when the election occurred, right? I deal with my own household, right? And the election happened and my daughter's coming out of, a weird little private school from Gainesville with, honestly, a very, was exactly what you would expect from a little private school in Gainesville, Florida, in a college town that caters to autistic and Aspie kids. Like, the gender fluidity is everywhere, blah, blah, all this stuff's going on. And so we're watching, the election happens at her nadir. She's 5 months unemployed after having graduated high school. She doesn't have any, she can't think of, she doesn't have a future at this point. She doesn't have anything. She's worried about all of this stuff that none of it fucking matters. Not a goddamn bit of it. There's the minute she got a job, 6 weeks later, within a month, her entire demeanor changed because the depression started to lift, the self-worth started to come back. And then her dad, now, it's me with my particular, version of reality and my particular insights into the world. I explained it all to her. I said, what you think you see coming, and I understand that you're worried about these things. Yeah, it's a worry. It's also gaslighting, frankly, now. But at the same time, I'm going to lay these things in front of you for you to watch. Okay? And come back to me a year from now and tell me what you think you're seeing. And oh, by the way, I'm going to act here forward, depending on how you respond to this situation. I'm going to act to reward you, or not reward you, but to say I can trust you now with, our future as a family far more than I could 6 months ago. right? So that it's no longer my wife and I and our daughter as two separate units. No, this is a family.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pool of assets. No matter what we have, it's all going to wind up going to you anyway. So now, let us discuss how we're going to move forward in order to make your transition from childhood to adulthood as smooth as possible, so that you're in a position to do all the things that you would like to do in this life, and we would like you to do, which is, of course, to have us grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
Which, of course, you're not thinking about because you're 18 and you're disaffected and all the rest of it. And fine, I'm okay with it. We will repair even that. That's the goal. And at every step of the way, we're going to talk about these things.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about the important stuff. We're going to get into arguments about these things where you're going to have a hard time individuating when you realize that you have that your parents are just not going to agree with you about things. And then it's okay that we don't agree.
Mm-hmm.
Because even when we don't agree, and we walk away from a conversation that is acrimonious, 2 days later, when we're sitting around talking about what we're going to do with this or that or anything else, we're like, well, why don't we structure things this way for our move to Tennessee? Why don't we do this? And how we, and oh, by the way, you need to be a part of this conversation because you're an actor in this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And look, all of a sudden, it doesn't matter that we disagree about these stupid little political things that, I have my experience, you have yours, you'll learn. You're at that age where you're supposed to say to your dad, you're full of shit.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. And I'm cool because when I was 19, I knew everything as well. And my dad just laughed at me and then took another drag off his Kent and sipped his coffee and then sent me off to go mow grass. Because at that point, my dad was my boss. Like, get out there and shut the fuck up and go mow some grass. Gotcha. Do it. That's where we were. Right. And I can tell you that doing it that way, and it's a similar thing to what you're talking about, all of a sudden, the way we discuss all of these things now is fundamentally different.
Mm-hmm.
It's fundamentally different, and in a good and positive way. There are so many little things out there. We waste so much money as a society on government programs to help people get jobs and get training and this and everything else. The best one that I've seen recently, I had a friend of mine who's this guy's in his 40s. He's like getting bounced around from job to job, and he's like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I need some help. I'm like, okay. Have you gone to Home Depot to go get the basic certifications that Trump's paying for? Like to be an electrician or a plumber or this or that. There's all those training schools. You can go over there and just take the 10-hour class and be done with it and get started.
Mm-hmm.
So that you can get an apprentice job. And yeah, it's going to suck for you. They may not, the local electricians may only pay you minimum wage. I know it sucks, but guess what? You may only get 10 hours worth of work. You may only get 20 hours worth of work a week anyway. And you have gig economy for the rest of it, and you'll move forward.
Mm-hmm.
But within a year of that point, we can come up with other opportunities for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll keep building the network, and I'll keep working within the community that I have to try and match people up, because that's really what we're doing. Now,
Yep.
Dexter and I realized a long time ago, I think it was right after, like 5 minutes after, we had the first, we walked into the room to see all the people at the first time that he and I ever put on a thing for our patrons. It was a transformative event for us. I think it was in 2021 or it was early 2022, one or the other. And we kind of looked at each other and went, we have a cult, and we have a responsibility to these people, and we have an opportunity to build a small intentional community that is powerful. And every day when we sit down to strategize about where we're going in the future and what we're doing, that's the point of all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the point of everything we're doing. Even if it doesn't look like that, even if it just looks like I'm going to rant into a microphone and do, my stupid shit. At the end of the day, the goal is to illuminate these truths and illuminate what's going on, to make it easier for you, the royal you, to go out into the world, live your life, do your day with a minimal amount of distractions. And so when you see the latest Pied Piper from the podcast, right, try and suck you into some stupid narcissistic divide and rule play, the latest one that the British are going to put out this afternoon. My job is to go, that's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Now go back to work.
Yep. I say to my kids,
don't worry about it. On top of it, go back to work. We opened this show with what the fuck's going on with Jerome Powell. 5 minutes of me explaining what I think is going on. Even if I'm wrong about some of it, it's going to be 85% right.
Mm-hmm.
And you can walk away. Don't worry about it.
I tell my kids all the time. I say, listen, like there's a tradition amongst Orthodox Jews that the year after high school you go either to Israel or here in the States to like religious school for a year before, if you're going to go to college, before you start college. But it's expensive, right? Mm-hmm. So I keep saying to all of my kids over and over and over again, I keep saying, listen, this is the deal. I sign the checks for you until you're 18. After that, we work together. There's no coming to me and saying, I want to go to seminary for a year, pay for it, because I'll just tell you no. Like, I'm just not going to do it. Like, you're going to figure this out for yourself and then come to me with a plan, or it's just not going to happen. You'll just have to accept that it's not going to be something you'll do. So my oldest daughter already came to me. She's like, well, I don't really want to go to seminary for the year. And I'm like, okay, great. And my second one said, I found a program where if I go be a camp counselor for 2 summers before my seminary year, they'll pay for it. Great, you can go. You know, they've been going. They love this stuff. They go to EMS classes to learn how to, do medical stuff. They go to lifeguarding classes to learn, because you know why? They like to swim. So if they can go to a lifeguarding class and learn how to lifeguard, and it gives them the chance to swim, why not? Right. And they're putting together these life plans. And they come to me for advice, not with their hand out going, pay for this, pay for that, pay for this. You know what I'm saying? Like, they understand that that's just not how things work. Like, look, you need me to sign a loan for you because you got into Cornell Law and you're about to, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't worry about it. I got you. The degree will pay for itself. But you want to go study underwater basket weaving at an Ivy League school because, after all, that sounds fun? Enjoy. Go find a bank to fund you.
It's really funny that you and I both use the phrase underwater basket weaving. Literally, that's the shit my dad used to say.
Mine too.
Okay.
He still does.
No, it's a very New York, northern New Jersey, like trope, by the way, in our households. I just so you know, I just find it really funny. Yeah, lesbian underwater basket weaving is even better. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And the funny part about it is, like, my daughter has been really interesting, because what she says to me is like, so the minute we left, right, and we're in the process of, we split time now between Tennessee and Florida. But she's in charge of the house, so she's still living in the house. And now she's on the deed, so she's helping to pay the mortgage and all of that. And she keeps saying to me, like, no, Dad, I say, I'll take care of this part of the electric bill. I'll take care of this or that. She's like, no, Dad, I want all that. I want to know what that. I'm like, I appreciate you wanting to take on as much responsibility as possible. I'm telling you right here, right now, you don't make enough money to do that. Mm-hmm. But you're showing up every day, and you're doing the work, and Dad's okay with, covering a certain amount of money every month for you, because, you could be in college, struggling to figure out what it is that you want, and you would be costing me 5 times that amount of money. You have a job. Your job brings you in X amount of money. I already had understood that you were going to be. I was staring the last year at having to cover all of it, or some major portion of it, and now I only have to cover this part of it.
Yep.
And oh, by the way, I get to then take that and say, okay, well, if you want to, take some more classes, or you want to do this, or you want to do that, I'm always open to having a conversation about how that's going to get paid for. And as long as you're covering, going to work every day, doing your thing, and building yourself into a more valuable person in the marketplace, so that you can take on more, then as we go along here, the amount I'm covering will lessen. And if by some miracle you realize that life gets a lot fucking easier when you find a man who's your partner, and then you don't need Dad anymore, because Dad's right now your partner in that respect. And I get to walk away from that role when you find the right person. So that's the other thing you should be trying to do, is to try and figure out who the right person is going to be. I know she's going to be 20 in April. It's now time. And so that's, but we've literally had that explicit conversation, as opposed to it just being kind of out there. I'm like, no, this is the way it's going to work. And I really do appreciate you saying to me, I want to take on all of this responsibility. I'm like, you don't have the bandwidth for it. You don't have the income for it. You don't have the emotional bandwidth for it. You don't have it. You don't have the discipline yet. You're going to get there though. And I need you to, I'm watching her like, when I went back for Christmas, it was really funny, right? Because she was immediately admitting that she's like, wow, dude, I'm being on my own. I'm like, I eat my shit. Like, I'm not getting, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing, like, yeah, you're not. And you're not taking good care of yourself. And so maybe you should do that. You're self-aware enough to say, yeah, I wasn't. Yeah. So now so that's next level. So first you got a couple of months worth of you on your own. What does that look like? And now you have to decide that, oh, that's not what I want. That's not the way I want to live. Mm-hmm. I'm not expecting you to get to that point immediately, but this is the natural part of the progression. And, and then the funniest part about all of this, dude, is that, and I don't know if you go through this with your kids or not, but, and I said, this is literally a conversation we had over Christmas. I said, do you think that I was this guy when I was 18? Do you think that I was any good at taking care of my cat that I had, or any of this? She's like complaining that she's not a good pet owner. She's not this. I'm like, oh, really? You think that I came out to shoot being very good with animals, being a good dog owner, being a good cat owner? Your mom helped me be a good. I wasn't a good pet owner until I was 40. Okay. She's like, oh. I'm like, you're being a little hard on yourself, love. You're doing fine. What you're telling me is that right now, being a good pet owner is not high on your priority list, because there's other things that you need to work on first. So continue working on those. We'll take those responsibilities off your head. And now that there's only 2 animals in the house as opposed to 5 to take care of, apparently the household is running a lot smoother.
Well, Tom, we've come to the end, man, but what a fun red pill. Like, it's a white pill or whatever you want to call it these days.
This is the way we have to do this stuff, dude. I mean, we can sit here and talk geopolitics until we're blue in the face. Everybody knows what we can fucking say about this stuff. This stuff's far more important.
It is 100%.
We're winning. And if we're good fathers, and we're good and we're good commentators, and we then, like, that's our job. Yep. The next time I get on, we'll sit here and we'll demystify we'll demystify a couple of things for people, so they can go back to work, or they can go and they can spend that extra half an hour with their kids, because that's what we're supposed to be fucking doing. I get to play, if I do my job right, I get to play Guild Wars with my daughter 3 times a week in the evenings, if I do my job right. And so does she. And that is time that no one's taking that fucking time from me right now. I'll work 12 hours previously so I can have 2 or 3 hours to do that. That's my gig right now. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, man.
Let me just address someone from the chat. It says, Halsey, wanted you to explain to me, why does TFM keep saying Russia and China are winning? I really want to see it from his view. I could not get into that without spending another hour on right now. If you want, email me, and maybe I'll do like a little show to explain it. But they're not.
They're not winning.
Like, they're struggling to stay afloat. We're winning a lot.
I mean, everybody, you can even argue that everybody's winning a little bit. The question is, who's winning more? Well, who's losing is fucking London and TFM. If TFM doesn't figure that out, can't understand that. The question is, who's going to gain more of the lion's share of the spoils from destroying Europe, which deserves to be destroyed for what it's done to the world.
Amen.
The United States is going to get 50% of it, or maybe 60% of it. Russia and China get to have 20 each. That's what's coming.
Yep.
All right. All right, man.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, guys. I will see everybody tomorrow. And thank you guys for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Please make sure you follow me on Twitter, follow Tom on Twitter, and make sure you hit up Patreons, newsletters. We got it all. It's all getting better, and things are just getting better constantly. We'll talk soon, everybody. Bye-bye.
My fellow Americans, tonight I am speaking to you because there is a growing humanitarian and security crisis at our southern border.
In all honesty, a border wall or steel slats won't work. But great bodies of water will separate us from the horrible Mexican rapists. Introducing the 2019 Trump Great Border Moat. Stocked with the most aggressive penis fish, incredible man-eating alligators, and unbelievable genetically modified moose-cocked rape dolphins, as well as flying, migrant-eating sharkfish. So incredible.
I swore to protect our country, and that is what I will always do.